Hello there, I'm Eamon.
And I'm Isabel.
And you're watching the GB News digital stream across the United Kingdom.
And around the world.
If you're here in the UK, you can also watch us on your TV screen. GB News is Freeview channel 236.
On Sky, we're channel 515.
626 on Virgin Media.
Just remember, you might need to retune your TV to watch the channel.
Yeah, and if you are doing that, find out more about retuning by going to gbnews.uk.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilized conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon.
And Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
Good evening and welcome. My name is Simon Evans. This is Headliners. But first, the news with Miranda.
Thank you. Let's bring you up to date now with the top stories. A Conservative backbencher has told GB News that Boris Johnson is facing a growing number of letters of no confidence from within his own party. There's reports there may soon be enough to trigger a vote on his leadership in Parliament. Tory MP Andrew Bridgen has told GB News he's one of a number now who are submitting letters to the 1922 committee.
I think that will push over the 54 required to trigger a confidence motion vote. I think Mr Brady will be, depending on what time they go in tomorrow, Mr Brady will go in to see the Prime Minister probably in the afternoon. We're going to be having the confidence vote probably on Tuesday or Monday next week.
Well, meanwhile, Boris Johnson is expected to announce an easing of England's coronavirus restrictions. The Prime Minister and his cabinet will examine the latest data ahead of making a statement in the Commons. Plan B measures introduced to curb the spread of the Omicron variant include working from home, the COVID pass and mandatory masks in shops and on public transport. Health Secretary Sajid Javid says he's cautiously optimistic restrictions can be reduced next week. It follows First Minister Nicola Sturgeon announcing Scottish nightclubs can reopen from Monday. There'll also be no limits on numbers at indoor events and social distancing will be scrapped. The White House is warning that Russia could launch an invasion of Ukraine at any time. The US Secretary of State Antony Blinken will meet Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov in Geneva on Friday to try and de-escalate the situation. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki has said the consequences will be severe if Russia doesn't take the diplomatic path.
Putin has created this crisis by amassing 100,000 Russian troops along Ukraine's borders. This includes moving Russian forces into Belarus recently for joint exercises and conducting additional exercises on Ukraine's eastern border. So let's be clear. Our view is this is an extremely dangerous situation. We're now at a stage where Russia could at any point launch an attack in Ukraine.
Well, meanwhile, the Ukrainian ambassador to the UK has told GB News the rest of the world is beginning to appreciate the threat Russia poses.
Our partners in NATO and around the globe start to understand what we've been saying for so many years, that they are coming to something. They can't just sit there, shoot over the touchline. They will have to do something. They can't keep the thousands of troops at our border. I would ask all our partners to help with everything they can. And believe me, I should be modest, but I also expect any sort of help, boots on the ground as well.
And British #1 tennis star Emma Raducanu has won her first round match at the Australian Open in 3 sets. The 19-year-old beat America's Sloane Stephens. She fought back from losing the second set 6-2 to win the third. Well, on TV, online and DAB+ radio, this is GB News. Now it's back to headliners.
Thank you, Miranda. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Headliners. I'm Simon Evans, and here are Wednesday's front pages. We have the Daily Mail, first of all, with exposed the pork pie plot to topple PM. That means the Prime Minister rather than the entire afternoon. The next front page is The Independent with "No one warned me" party was against the rules, says man who set the rules. That is sarcasm from The Independent, but I have to say, on this occasion, well-deserved. Plan B to be scrapped as PM faces plot from rebel MPs. Rebel MP sounds like a crossword clue for PM, but that's not what's going on there. Clamour to oust Johnson in The Guardian. Clamour to oust Johnson grows as Tory MPs plot confidence vote. And we have Emma Raducanu on the front page there. I was really enjoying it, she says. Almost sounds disappointed that she won and it had to end. The Financial Times have an important story, but it has deviated from the rest of them. Microsoft to buy game maker Activision Blizzard for $75 billion. I'm sure my parents will be intrigued to hear about that story. And their second one is Hong Kong to cull hamsters and shut pet shops over virus transmission fears. Can't help feeling that's a snapshot of the modern world. In comes Activision Blizzard for $75 billion, out go hamsters. Metro, nobody told me. That's Boris Johnson again complaining that he was unable to trust his own senses in detecting the activity of a party on his own premises. That's the Metro. They also have Raducanu is back. The Times have gone with Red Wall Tory MPs team up to topple Johnson. There is a growing sense that the required number of letters to trigger a no-confidence vote is coming in. The Eye have Tory plotters in talks to topple Boris Johnson. Topple seems to be the verb of the moment, which is, I suppose, at least quite agreeably sort of good-natured. Daily Express, what a sorry state. New MPs plot to oust PM. Familiar photograph there of Boris holding his hair on and breathing through his mask. He looks extraordinarily sorry for himself. Andrew's 6 in a bed. That's the Sun. Andrew's 6 in a bed. They are ratcheting up the misery on poor old Prince Andrew, who's been deprived of his titles and ranks last week, and it just gets worse and worse. And finally, the Daily Star. Pinocchio, I am not a liar. And, of course, Pinocchio knows they're telling another story entirely. Golden Holden on the side. I don't know whether we'll get to that story. I think we can probably guess what it's all about. Those are the papers. We also have tonight's guests to discuss them with. I shall introduce you very shortly. So, good evening, welcome. We have Andrew Doyle and Leo Kearse with us this evening. Good evening, gentlemen.
Evening.
Andrew, you have once again pretty much fallen in line with my dress code. Leo, once again, showing himself off as the weekend casual member of the...
It's a nice jumper. We can't all look like we're regional bank managers.
No, I know. It's regardless, even if I were to wear cabled knitwear, I would still look like a regional regional bankware. There's a catalogue. So we've got some cracking stories to get on with. Obviously, the top story by some distance, the consensus seems to be that it is Boris Johnson very much experiencing his swan song. We seem to be getting down to the dregs of this business, I think. There's a sense that Boris is minesweeping the excuses now, necking abandoned half-pint evasions, tipping previously sampled obfuscations into a pint glass with an inch of white wine, half an inch of gin and tonic. What might have been a rum and coke, something blue best not inquired about, swilling them all around, necking them down fast before anyone checks to see if they amount to coherence. And saying that he himself was unable to determine whether what he was attending was in breach of the rules suggests one of three things to me. Either they were too hard for anyone else to follow those rules, or he's too stupid to run the meat raffle, let alone the country, or, of course, he's lying. If there is a fourth option, I haven't thought of it yet. Leo, what do you got on this?
Well, yeah, his excuses are fantastic. They're classic Boris. So he said, I carry full responsibility for what took place, but nobody told me. So that's not quite full responsibility. That is very much shirking his responsibility. He repeatedly rejected Dominic Cummings' claim that he'd been warned about the event in advance and was now lying about it. But lying, of course, is what we're used to Boris doing. I mean, he was fired from the Times for fabricating a quote. His shadow minister, who was fired by Michael Howard for lying about an affair. So he lies. When he was mayor, he said he wouldn't run as MP, and then he popped up in 2015 running as an MP. So we know he lies. It's just this is something that we care that he lied about. So this seems to have really struck a chord with the public, as they've been fined for walking their dogs and been denied, going to their parents' funerals or whatever it is, while Boris was attending parties. And now he's saying he didn't even know if it was a party. Now the knives seem to be coming out.
And it feels to me like this is in many ways a very appropriate scandal for the end of his premiership, because it is extraordinarily straightforward, simple, obvious. It's got emotional punch. I was saying to somebody the other day, remember when Margaret Thatcher teetered on the edge? I think it was about 1987. It was the Westland helicopter affair. Michael Heseltine resigned over it. There were all kinds of discussions about what kind of... It was quite difficult. You had to read 3 or 4 paragraphs to get to grips with what had happened. This is basically like, did you or did you not break into the tuck shop? Is this a photograph of
People had attention spans then. Now we're all on Instagram and TikTok. We just scroll past. So it's got to be something that can be summed up in...
But this has got it, hasn't it? It's almost the pants around the ankles. It's the chocolate-smeared bib around the face.
Well, the thing is, though, I don't necessarily agree with Leo. I don't think he can possibly be lying, because he's a politician with one eye on his legacy. Why would he want anyone to think he's that stupid? Because clearly he must believe it, because it's such a stupid... If it's true, it's utter stupidity. Because he made the rules, as the Independent's front cover pointed out. He's broken the rules that he himself made. To claim that he doesn't know the rules that he himself set. Nobody can be that... And we know he's not that stupid, right? That's
people do lie without even realising they're doing it. Last night I was having a snooze in front of the fire, and my wife, I was aware, I was sort of half asleep, I was aware, she came in, turned the television on and then left. And when she came back in 5 minutes later, I said, why did you turn the TV on? It woke me up. She said, I didn't. And I knew she was. You know the TV can turn itself on sometimes.
So you think your wife is well equipped to run the country?
She works in PR as well. I just think sometimes when people caught on the hoof, they just start spouting nonsense.
There's a difference, though, isn't there? I mean, he's been caught on the hoof in front of the whole country.
He has.
And everyone's looking at him.
Caught on the trotter.
There we go. And he's got Dominic Cummings after... Now, by the way, Dominic Cummings isn't the most reliable source. I think we should make that clear. I don't believe anything that he says either, necessarily.
He's got an agenda.
Well, I mean, it's so... I almost think their relationship must have gone beyond just friendship or... I don't know.
It's just Shakespearean.
This is the behaviour of
pure Othello and Iago.
It is. That's what I mean.
The sad part is that Johnson lacks the gravitas to pull off the.
That's true. But Cummings won't let it go. He's like a spurned lover.
Oh yeah,
it's absolutely extreme.
He will expose him to extraordinary humiliation.
But it's still a long road. Unless Boris resigns, it's going to be tough to get him out. So 54 MPs, I think 6 so far have come forward and publicly stated that they want him to resign, but 54 MPs need to sign a letter of no confidence, and then 180 MPs need to vote him out. So bear in mind that he's, even though his approval rating is terrible now, he won the biggest landslide for the Tories in 3 decades.
I was saying to you earlier, it's like the Titanic, isn't it? It strikes the iceberg. That much has happened. Yeah. Everyone is now waiting to see whether this can be patched up and whether they can get into port or whether we need to dispatch to the boats. And these are the telling moments, because as it starts to tilt up, there's got to be a point at which you go, we've got to get off.
But we don't know how many people have written those letters, right?
No.
Because that's never revealed. We know that 6 people, as you say, publicly have said it. It could be quite near the amount that is required in order to trigger.
Let's have a look and see who is likely to be in line to challenge him. Jeremy Hunt has reappeared. His profile has been quite low for the last couple of years, which is probably not bad news from his point of view, from his prospects. He was in the last 2 last time. He was one of the final 2, and he was roughly 2/3 to a third in favour of Boris Johnson, which isn't a disgraceful showing. Prior to that, of course, he had mixed results at Health. He was quite unpopular with the left, but that won't necessarily do him any harm on this occasion. And I think he's not merely just not Boris, he is actively non-Boris. He's quite anti-Boris. There is a sense that he's been thwarted by the Boris administration. He is a Remainer, and he's a less convincing convert than Liz Truss. But more importantly, he feels like a proper old-fashioned professional politician. He's got genuine credentials. He's a qualified surgeon next to Boris's chiropractor. That's how I feel about him. The sort of person you would relax when Jeremy Hunt came into the consulting room. The headmaster will see you now, but in a good way. And he has survived several high-profile mispronunciations of his own name on BBC Radio 4. So he's been through it. What do you think, Andrew?
I love this moment whenever...
Viable?
Yeah, well, I mean, the thing is, all of these politicians now, whenever we get to this sort of moment in time, they never come out and say, you know, I want this, I want to be the Prime Minister. They always sort of skirt around. We know that Liz Truss wants to be Prime Minister because she's been travelling to work in a tank, right? So we know that. And Rishi Sunak obviously wants this. And then we had Jeremy Hunt saying, it says in the article here in the Mail, he says that his ambition to lead the party has not completely vanished. Well, that means he wants it, isn't it? But why not just say it? Because, I mean,
but then he said, I would take some persuading. Meanwhile, we've got half a dozen people setting up an office somewhere.
Exactly.
Installing phone lines.
It's this moment where it's all this sort of Machiavellian backstabbing and all the rest of it. It's got quite exciting. For me, I think it's going to be Truss, actually. I think, well, it's always between her and Sunak, and they go up and down in the potential polls. But I think she's she's got more experience in more cabinet posts, and she's, I think she seems like and wouldn't it be one in the eye for Labour if it's the third female Prime Minister?
But on the other hand, the first Asian Prime Minister.
There's that as well.
Quite classy. Yeah. I mean, what do you think of Rishi? He is. I mean, if you were to stand next to him, that would be an exposing.
Well, he looks too young.
Yeah.
He looks about 19 years old, and I don't want a boy band leader. I don't
he has
want
the vibe
Macron.
of the keen son still.
Yeah.
Ready to take over the
whereas
business,
Truss has the sort of iron fist and the velvet glove, and it seems like more of a sort of proto Thatcher.
And that's what you want.
That's what I want. Yeah, like I can just picture her in a tank. Whereas Rishi, I just associate with half-price lunches. At the height of the pandemic. We lured us all into the cafes so we could spread coronavirus.
And a Bluetooth coffee mug. I seem to remember, which was a birthday present. Lynn, I mean, there are actual photographs, aren't there, that people have matched up with photo opportunities that Thatcher did. There's about half a dozen that are exact copies, very much like Meghan and Diana. But of course, these things, I don't know how many of those are done by her.
I mean, she's a good one to mimic, isn't she, Thatcher? If that's where you want to go. I mean, even Theresa May attempted to do this and that didn't work out, obviously, because she's got completely different temperament. But,
different voice, very different voice. Thatcher had her voice worked on, but
Thatcher modified her own voice to speak lower. And when Theresa May, you remember that first speech she gave him, her maiden speech, she was trying. You could see she was trying to lower her voice.
She remained at 78 RPM throughout her entire career. It was a great shame. I felt sorry for Theresa May because there was something. She was pretty try-hard, though. As I always said, a 2-2 in geography. I mean, be honest, you'd be disappointed if your geography teacher had a 2-2 in geography, wouldn't you?
Better than Corbyn, though. I think Corbyn got something like
2 E's.
At A-level,
We came that close. I don't know what Liz Truss... Jeremy Hunt is proper old-school private education and Oxford.
You have his GCSEs in front of you as well? Or?
Yeah.
That's the basis.
I quite like Jeremy Hunt, though. I will be honest with you. I am a bit old-school like that. I just like people who give off a little bit of a patina. I always thought with Boris... It was a bit like the circus had got to the point where they desperately needed to get the clowns on while they changed. You know, like the origin of stand-up was you did a set while they had the curtains drawn and they were preparing the set for the next stripper. That was kind of how I felt with Boris. A couple of years of Boris out front, riding around in his ridiculous tricycle,
Well,
and then meanwhile, in fact, the grown-ups, I don't think, haven't been preparing for this.
No, because, I mean, for so long now, it's been about the personality, hasn't it? The presidential style ever since Blair. And that's the thing that seems to win votes, So
that is, I mean, the number of times that you have to look back and you go, Blair did this, it's Blair's fault, Blair created this precedent, little knowing what damage could be done if the wrong occupant. Talking of wrong occupants, things are looking serious on the Ukrainian border. They've started spelling Kiev differently for a start. That's always a bad sign. Who's got this? Is this?
Yeah. So this is me. So the Foreign Office has been told to prepare for crisis mode as weapons are being flown from Britain to Ukraine. This is all very James Bond, this stuff, to defend it from a Russian invasion. So there's over 100,000 troops on the Ukrainian border. And Putin's been waiting. Apparently the ground was too soft. So the tanks, can go across because they'd sink into the marsh.
Global warming.
Another benefit of global warming. Will they ever end? It's incredible. But unfortunately, because too many people bought Teslas, the ground is now hard enough and icy enough for the tanks to roll in. Talks with America and NATO failed. Ukraine's been suffering cyber attacks because Russia fights on the cyber level as well, and interferes in other people's elections and stuff. But so basically, it looks like Russia is going to roll tanks and troops into Ukraine. They're not sure if they're going to roll straight through and seize Kiev, or what they could do is what they did in Abkhazia and South Ossetia, which are two sort of provinces of Georgia that align themselves quite closely with Russia. They could do the same in Donetsk and Luhansk, which are on the east of Ukraine, but align themselves closely.
Geography.
I was on Wikipedia 5 minutes ago.
Can you describe where Kiev is in relation to the whole of Ukraine?
Yes.
Which quartile is it?
Yes, I can. But anyway,
I knew you'd get a test.
Is it like a leap and a hop, or is it like we break the border and then there's 3 days hard marching?
It's certainly a certain number of miles, probably.
Is it? Yeah.
I've been to Belarus. I vaguely know that part of the world. I've flown over parts of it.
Right.
But Putin's weak at home. There's no real appetite at home for a war. They're not, rattling the saber on TV or anything. And his allies in Kazakhstan and Belarus are suffering, protests. People are rising up against the dictators there. And Putin must be worried that could happen to him as well.
Can I suggest something a bit more sceptical here? Is that last April they were saying the same thing. 100,000 troops massing at the border. Nothing happened. I'm really sceptical that there's going to be an invasion at all. And what's interesting about this article here is it's not saying what Russia continually tell us, which is their reasons for this. It's not saying that they are afraid of NATO expansionism, which is what this is all about. That's what it's always been about. And NATO have been very, very clear in their overtures towards Ukraine, saying they want Ukraine to be part of NATO. Russia is terrified of this idea. All of the various, they see it as a land grab. NATO takes Hungary, Latvia, Estonia over time, and Russia perceives them as moving towards their borders. Whether that's right or wrong, whether the fear is grounded.
It is right. I think they're grounded. I mean, the word Ukraine, I think, virtually means no man's land, doesn't it, or something? It means border territories. I mean, the whole point of it has been created to create a firebreak.
They see them as a military threat. And I think that... But it's just strange to me that in all of this coverage, whenever we talk about this, that isn't really talked about, even though Russia is explicit about this reason.
No, I know, absolutely. When somebody tells you why they're going to war, it's worth at least considering. I think you're absolutely right. And I do think it is. We get very skewed news on this from all sources. It's very hard to find a single newspaper that will give you a Russian perspective.
But I think Russia's looking at the media output, the Guardian, the things they're seeing in the Guardian, and thinking this is a prime time to invade Europe. Like, everybody's got pink hair, they've got they're focused on their various genders. They're not going to be able to fight.
You don't think that they're just they are baring their teeth because of this fear of NATO expansionism, not because they're actually going to invade. Because it's just that it just feels like this is just a continual thing. Oh, they're about to invade. No, they're not.
Time will tell. I think in the aftermath of Afghanistan, they're probably feeling a certain more confidence than they might have had a year ago. Anyway, coming up, we've got 5G, Lady al-Qaeda, and the policing bill. So don't go anywhere. Here's the weather.
Good evening. A bit of rain around tonight and tomorrow as a band of wet weather moves southwards. Behind it, brighter skies will follow, but also we'll see a cold wind starting to increase. The winds have been pretty light recently thanks to high pressure, but weather fronts are slowly edging in. Been bringing some rain across western Scotland and Northern Ireland through the afternoon, and that wet weather will continue to trickle southwards. We'll see a little bit arriving across the far north of England through this evening, and some fog likely to thicken up once more across the south. That could be quite dense during this evening as well, so just be aware of that if you're heading out on the roads. Further north, we'll see another area of rain come into Scotland, Northern Ireland and later northwest England. Could see some pockets of frost across the south where the skies stay clear, but generally staying a touch above freezing, certainly for most towns and cities. Quite a grey start then tomorrow across northern England, Wales, with a bit of rain, and could be some heavier bursts of rain for a time across southwest England. The rain will be fairly light and patchy across East Anglia and the southeast around the early afternoon before it clears away. And as I said, most places brightening up with sunny spells. Temperatures around average, but feeling colder with the wind. And that wind will be bringing some snow showers across the Northern Isles and even into the mainland of Scotland. Some snow is possible through the evening. It could turn icy as well. Ice, sleet and snow showers also then move down the eastern side of England during the course of tomorrow night. Scattered, but as I said, could cause a few issues on the road as temperatures start to fall away. It's a frosty start to Thursday for a good chunk of the UK. The odd shower for Pembrokeshire and Cornwall, and still 1 or 2 for Lincolnshire and Norfolk. But apart from that, most places on Thursday having a sparkling day of winter sunshine, but it will be colder. Only 4 or 5, the top temperature for most places. It'll turn quite cold on Thursday night as well, and we're going to continue to have frosty mornings in the outlook. But with high pressure moving back in, not much rain in the outlook either, with many places staying dry into the weekend.
Hello there, I'm Eamon.
And I'm Isabel.
And you're watching the GB News digital stream across the United Kingdom.
And around the world.
If you're here in the UK, you can also watch us on your TV screen. GB News is Freeview channel 236.
On Sky, we're channel 515.
626 on Virgin Media.
Just remember, you might need to retune your TV to watch the channel.
Yeah, and if you are doing that, find out more about retuning by going to gbnews.uk.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilized conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon.
And Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
Welcome back to Headliners. We are looking at Wednesday's newspapers. Meghan wants to be Diana, in my view, and she is in danger of becoming the new Maddie if she's not careful. Leo, she's on the front. She's on the Express, basically, is what I'm saying. What's she up to this time?
So Meghan Markle, you won't believe this, but she's having another moan about something. So apparently now the BBC coverage of her privacy win, like she got something wrong, so she's complained about that. I mean, I don't know why these has-beens, they're complaining about privacy when they're constantly parading themselves in OK Magazine and doing TV interviews with Oprah Winfrey, and then they complain about privacy. And, the big thing she was complaining about before was the royal family are racist. It's like, does she not have internet? You know what I mean? You could just Google Prince Philip. And I love him, but he had no chance of becoming Black Lives Matter's communications manager. You know what I mean? And Prince Harry, the royal she chose to marry, used to dress up as a Nazi back when he was fun.
She went into that completely blind, Leo. There was no way she could ever have discovered the history of that family. I feel sorry for the girl.
Yeah.
It's strange, though, isn't it, that paradox, the privacy thing. And you have to assume it's a game they play, people at this kind of level of celebrity. It's a game they play in order to keep your sympathies, even as they are clawing desperately at the carcass.
Well, this has come about because of this book, hasn't it? And because she was basically she forgot that she had emailed the authors of this book about her and Harry. I think the book's called Finding Freedom. Which, I mean, come on. I mean, she's not Nelson Mandela. I mean, this is ridiculous. But but apparently she was in contact with him at some point, and now she forgot. But she didn't mislead. That's the whole point. She didn't mislead. But you cannot unintentionally mislead, can't you?
Well, listen, I'm sure she's got some of the finest lawyers money can buy, and that is the home of sophistry, and it's nice for them to be able to keep their blades sharpened and wetted on this kind of stuff. But I don't feel that the rest of us really need to take an interest, do we? No. Djokovic, Novak Djokovic, I pronounced that name Djokovic in order to enhance the sense that he is a wild card in today's...
Very smart.
He is, he's obviously, I think he's come home now, isn't he? He's been, even given that long flight, he must be back in Serbia by now. But it looks as if he might be banned from the French and US Open. His next serious Grand Slam tournament could be Wimbledon, which I quite like the sound of that. If we were able to host him, that could be the one. If he won that would take him into GOAT status. He would then have had 21 Grand Slams. And I think that would amount to a bit of a coup.
And that beats the record, doesn't it, at that point?
There's three of them, neck and neck and neck. Nadal, and Federer and Djokovic.
Yeah, well, I mean, he must be gutted about the Australian situation. But it's not just that, as you say. He is going to be barred from the French Open now because yesterday the French said that you have to have vaccine passports specifically, and almost certainly as well the US.
Well, this is assuming he refuses to capitulate. He could get vaccinated.
He could just get vaccinated. I mean, that's what Boris Becker is telling him to do.
Yeah.
He's saying, the way out, the easiest thing is for him to get vaccinated.
Do you not think he could just get a mate to do it for him and text him a PDF of the QR code?
Just get a fake arm.
There's
somebody doing that in Italy. He's got a fake arm. You've got the holding a tennis racket.
People are paying some nurses in Italy.
Like a ham or something.
No, but you're actually getting nurses who accept bribes in Italy to fake, to say that you've had the vaccine, but they just spray it into the toilet.
And the funny thing is, if he were to get it done as a fake, I'm not suggesting for one moment that he should, but if he were, he's got the antibodies because he's already had the virus, so it'd be undetectable.
But that's what's really interesting about it is when it comes to the Australia situation is that the Australian government admitted that he was not in any way a health risk to anyone at all. They said, he's had it twice, he's had it recently, so there's no way that he can spread it or catch it at the moment. They said that the reason they didn't want him there is because of the influence he could have because of his opinions. What they've effectively done is deported someone because of their views. And I worry less about this individual case and more about the precedent that kind of thing can set.
Well, they say he's fanning the flames of anti-vaccine sentiment, that is a very... that's thin ice.
Well, so are they by making him a martyr.
Although it was nice to see, all these Guardian readers who are, pro-vaccine, they're really getting behind the deportation of an immigrant because he's diseased and breaking the law. That's something I more associate that with Tommy Robinson, but there's all the left doing it as well. How things have changed in 2 years.
It's absolutely true. What is our next story? I'm seeing a certain amount of Schadenfreude here. Leo, you've got this story. What is this?
Yeah, so basically the BBC licence fee is going to be frozen for 6 years. And Tim Davie has warned that it's going to leave a £285 million funding gap.
I think I read into that, it's going to be frozen... Absolutely frozen for 2 years and then keep line with inflation for 4 years.
Sorry.
So it amounts to a 6-year kind of...
frozen at £159 for 2 years and then in line with inflation, which will be about 39% the way things are going.
That was it. The funny thing is, normally, I mean, in the last 20 years or so, that wouldn't have been a huge story. But inflation might be quite significant in the next couple of years, and that will make all the difference.
Well, and a lot of the government's promises, like the triple lock on pensions, they're going to have to break these promises the way inflation is going. But it's so saddening to see this Oxbridge gravy train ending. I don't know whether they're going to be able to claw money from bus drivers and cleaners to pay these pompous
Did you see and I'll ask you this, Andrew, did you see the video that was shared a lot on Twitter? Adil Ray, I don't know if you know Adil Ray, who presents, is it GMTV or something like that?
It was Good Morning Britain, I think.
Yeah. So he was saying, of course it would be the BBC one. It was he repeated a very famous sort of propaganda video, but in a good way, that the BBC made in about 1980, 85, something like that, which had John Cleese in a pub complaining about the licence fee, and there were all these people like David Attenborough and Jon Snow and David Dimbleby and so on. Patiently explaining to him how much he got for his money, and it's a lovely feel-good video, but you couldn't make it today. I don't know how you could do it.
Well, you couldn't, because here's the thing. I mean, I saw someone else put out a list of all the great comedies that the BBC has produced, and they're all from 15 years ago minimum, right? So there is a real problem. And what is, by the way, this article that we've got in The Guardian, what is wrong with The Guardian? They're talking about how some people are calling for the BBC to have a subscription-style service, and they say this is a model advocated by hard-right commentators. These are people who are sick of paying for a service they don't use. No one's calling for a white ethno-stuff. The Guardian, and by the way, one way that the BBC could save money is to stop subscribing to The Guardian, because they buy 1,300 copies a week. Right? So they buy 50% of The Guardian's circulation. No wonder The Guardian's taking this line.
And there has been for some time an extraordinary Guardian to BBC to Guardian pipeline. I mean, it's just an extraordinary digestive system.
This is why people are sick of it.
They only used to advertise their jobs in the Guardian media section. I know that because I used to think about trying to get one.
But this is exactly why people are sick of the BBC, because it is ideologically captured. It is in line with this kind of thing.
And it's funny, lots of people have said it. Some people say, some people say it's too right-wing, some people say it's too left-wing. That means it must be balanced. But it's only the people on the right who want to see it abolished, only the people on the left who want to see it saved. So that suggests to me that there is something.
Objectively is unbalanced. They did a survey of the comedians on the BBC, and of all the slots in the BBC, of the comedians who had an outward and overt political stance, 99% of them were left-wing, and 1% were Jeff Norcott.
I don't know what I was going to say. Jeff Norcott. You'll start cropping up on in these stories now, but not very long ago. I think it was only a year ago. There was a little flare-up. Tim Davie comes in and says we're going to start bringing in some more balance into the topical comedy shows. And The Guardian ran a story saying the fact is there just aren't any right-wing comedians. There's a handful available. And as a consequence, the few that there are, like Jeff Norcott and Simon Evans, are never off our screens.
Yeah.
I literally haven't done a single BBC comedy TV show in 10 years, not one, unless you count Question Time, which, despite protestations, remains current affairs. Not one, not Mock the Week, not have I got... to me suggests that there is a hypocrisy. If they're saying there just aren't any, and that means the people like me and Jeff get all the work, you go, well, where is my work?
Where's your work? Exactly. No, they're living in a fantasy.
Anyway, 5G up next, and the conspiracy theorists were right, it seems. It doesn't cause coronavirus, but it does seem to bring planes crashing down to Earth. Potentially.
I think
it's quite worrying.
The conspiracy theorists are going to love this one. They're saying that the 5G rollout in America, which is about to happen, is going to cause all these planes to be grounded. And apparently... It's got a kind of whiff of the Y2K panic about it, and I'm not so sure. Well, I don't know. Apparently, in the UK, the Aviation Society in this country, the Civil Aviation Authority (Ofcom) and the EU Aviation Safety Authority are all saying that this won't happen here. So this is to do with different frequencies apparently in America. So apparently in America, it can affect the planes. I mean, I'm always nervous about.
It sounds more like the wobbly bridge than.
It doesn't sound real, does it? I mean, whenever I'm on the plane and someone says to me, "You've got to turn your phone off," I'm thinking, look, if my smartphone can bring this plane down, then there's a problem with the design of the plane.
You won't even let me bring shampoo on. No, so I don't think my smartphone's going to bring it down.
No, so I don't think this is... I mean, look, I don't know. I'm not an expert at this at all, but, apparently this is a problem. This is a fear.
Now would be the time to do it, because airports are 90% closed anyway, aren't they? You can probably run them out and check it. What are your feelings, though? I mean, I think you've got a point there with the shampoo.
Yeah, apparently in Britain and Europe, we use a different frequency for our 5G, and so in America, so you taking off in Britain, you're going to be fine. It's landing in America that you're going to... So make sure you make full use of the in-flight bar.
Isn't it? Once you're up, you're going to come, you'll come down. It might be a bit of a wobble, but...
If this is all it takes for a plane to go down, it probably deserves to go down, doesn't it?
Do you remember when there was a drone that brought Gatwick to a standstill about...
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And it turned out they weren't even sure it had been a drone. The whole thing might have been like a pigeon. I kind of feel like coronavirus has been like an extrapolation of the drone mentality.
Right, yeah.
But aeroplanes do just seem to be increasingly, fragile. The whole system, they're just quite anxious. It's extraordinary, the level of coordination, the skill, of course, in air traffic control. And, You know, it's obviously amazingly safe. I want to emphasise that. You know, we all know that flying is probably the single safest place you can be, isn't it?
And
it's safer than being in your own kitchen, right?
That's right. And it's not as though planes are going to be dropping out of the sky.
No.
All it will mean is that people will have their flights cancelled and the planes are going to remain.
How could it be safer than being in my kitchen? Like, my kitchen has never flown into the side of a mountain at 800 miles an hour.
If you take a bath in your kitchen and the toaster falls in, that's it. You laugh, but when we bought our last house, there actually was a bath.
There's a bath in the kitchen. Well, are you sure you weren't in the bathroom?
The house had been broken into flats, into like bedsits and studio flats. And one of them, the woman had a clawfoot bath in the same room as the kitchen.
Amazing.
And I do remember thinking, this feels like the opening scene in Casualty.
Yeah.
Anyway, we've reached the end of part 2, ladies and gentlemen. We are going for an ad break now. Please buy the purchase the services and goods and products coming up, and we will discuss Boris dancing, asteroids and racist tirades in Aldi after that, so don't go anywhere.
Hello there, I'm Eamon.
And I'm Isabel.
And you're watching the GB News digital stream across the United Kingdom.
And around the world.
If you're here in the UK, you can also watch us on your TV screen. GB News is Freeview Channel 236.
On Sky, we're Channel 515.
626 on Virgin Media.
Just remember, you might need to retune your TV to watch the channel.
Yeah, and if you are doing that, find out more about retuning by going to gbnews.uk.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday. And there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. And then for the last 15 minutes, talking pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilized conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes.
And I'm Isabel Webster.
And we hope you can join us for
Breakfast with Eamon.
And Isabel.
You make me laugh out loud, belly laugh.
Is that important first thing in the morning?
Yeah, absolutely.
And there's me trying to be deadly serious. News is a serious business.
Yeah, I have to rein you in sometimes.
Well, it doesn't stop us laughing at it. It doesn't stop us having an opinion on what's going on.
Yeah.
And it certainly will not stop us reflecting what you think.
Weekdays from 6 to 9:30 on GB News.
And welcome back to Headliners. I'm Simon Evans. I'm joined by Leo Kurtz and Andrew Doyle, and we are looking at Wednesday's papers. The most dangerous woman in the world, Leo. Call me old-fashioned, but that makes me think quite highly of her. That's kind of sexy, isn't it? But maybe I've misread it.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they've been to the south side of Glasgow, but yeah. So basically, the guy on Sunday night, the guy who took hostages at the synagogue in Texas,
and then killed himself, did he? Or?
Malik Faisal Akram. Well, it says here he was shot dead by FBI agents who stormed the building, and the hostages were free, thankfully unharmed. But the reason he was doing it was to demand that Siddiqui, so this is Aifa Siddiqui, the terrorist known as Lady al-Qaeda, be freed from jail. So she was sentenced to 86 years in jail in 2010. So she'll probably die in jail. And there's been a few attempts to stage terror attacks to try and get her released or to swap her for prisoners that Al-Qaeda have taken. So she was radicalized by the suffering of Bosnian Muslims during the Balkan Wars, apparently. And it seems ironic that she then joined Al-Qaeda because the West tried to help the Bosnian Muslims during the Balkan Wars. We tried to stop all that, but I mean, some of the stuff that she did when she was seized by the FBI and by Special Forces soldiers, a soldier sat down laying his assault rifle by his foot. She grabbed it, opened fire, shouting, "Get the F out of here!" No soldiers were hit. I think she was, firing to the ceiling or whatever. She was shot in the stomach and then seized and jailed. So yeah, I mean, incredible story, but yeah, and also a sign of progression. And al-Qaeda have traditionally not been one for promoting women in the workplace.
Is she just dangerous in terms of her ability to grab weapons and like in some sort of like quite A-team style, or does she have the ability to, I don't know, proselytize in some way? There's
the weapon grabbing and firing in enclosed spaces. There's the Islamist ideology. That's generally a no-no.
But she's a kind of totem for the whole of Pakistan to some extent, right?
Yeah.
They see her capture and her it's a sort of victimization state.
Well, she planned a major attack on New York City, and she's a neuroscientist, incredibly smart.
Did she though? Or
that's the claim.
She disputes that, doesn't she?
Yes,
they had a sort of dirty bomb type.
But that's the claim, and this is the thing about this. I mean, it just goes to show the power of ideology, doesn't it? Because this is a woman who is highly intelligent, educated in the West, she's middle class, all of those, she's got advantages in life.
Yeah.
It's not like she's just some stupid mindless drone that's just gone along with being mindlessly radicalised.
Suicide vest.
And that's what's
she's
quite
a mastermind.
It's quite frightening about this kind of thing. Yes, Mastermind S.
Mindrix. And she's also said to be a terrible anti-Semite and blames the Jews for everything that's going on.
Which really made her stand out in al-Qaeda.
Yeah. So. Which is it's quite an interesting card to play. To say. So it has kind of obviously left the Labour Party with a tricky wicket to navigate. But anyway, she won't be going anywhere. She was originally, they offered one of the hostages that they took, ISIS took as well. I think this was a rare
James Foley.
James
Foley. So he was
none of it.
He was a US journalist who was later beheaded. So they offered to exchange him for
She really is considered to be extraordinarily non-negotiable.
But it's not clear what the relationship between her and this the man who went into the synagogue was, because he was calling for her release when he held the 4 Jewish people hostage. And it does look like she's just this kind of icon among people who have been radicalised, and they just see there is no real connection, you see.
I can't help feeling calling her Lady Al-Qaeda, though, is, I don't know, it just gives her a sort of
like
glamour that's a little bit...
It sounds like a Lady Gaga Islamist.
Yeah, Lady Gaga. Anyway, was the old saying, try anything once except incest and Morris dancing? Have you heard that?
I haven't, but it's good advice.
Morris dancing, we have Boris dancing. This is a clip we all saw a couple of days ago, I think. I don't know whether we have footage of it here. Bumping butts with the lady chair of some august institution. Leo, this is being shared on Russia TV or something, is that right?
So basically, as Russia is ramping up, rattling the sabres to invade Ukraine, this clip from 2013 of Boris Johnson dancing, which is quite fun. I saw it. I thought it was quite fun.
Fine with it.
He was going for it. He was, and then the Tory party. I mean, we've seen Theresa May. Bad dancing never brings them down. No. It's never the bad dancing. It's the corruption and the illegal parties. But yeah, it's being shown on Russian TV, where of course Putin has only ever seen, wrestling bears and firing AK-47s into the air while riding a bear.
Riding bareback.
Yeah, literally bareback. And yeah, so they're mocking Boris, saying they're going to nuke London and spare the Welsh, Scots and Irish lives. So quite chuffed about that.
It's going to turn the Celtic fringe against us.
It is a joke, to be fair, isn't it? They are joking about that.
Well, they've got to be, because they wouldn't risk damaging their property portfolios by nuking London.
What's his name? The Chelsea guy? Abramovich. Alone, would surely put the kibosh on.
It's strange, though, isn't it, that this could be the thing that reignites the Cold War, just Boris grooving away. It doesn't really bother me.
The Lady Mayor had she's something like a mayor type, some dignitary. She's carrying a lightsaber.
Yeah.
Is that real?
As well. Well, I don't think there are real ones.
No, but I mean, it's not real life, was it? Because it looked very convincing. I thought it was perhaps
a real
put on
toy.
a special.
No, she's an actual Jedi.
Yeah.
Send her into the Ukraine.
No wonder I couldn't remember what she was chair of. The
Jedi Council.
Galactic Council.
Exactly.
OK, what have we got next? Andrew, a huge disappointment as yet another asteroid fails to put us out of our misery. This one is coming nearly a million miles.
Yeah, so why do we have so many of these stories about asteroids? Now, this is one in Wednesday's Daily Mail. This is about, apparently, there's an asteroid twice the size of the Empire State Building will race by Earth. About a month ago, we had the one the size of the Eiffel Tower, which almost... Why do they always measure asteroids in terms of landmarks, public landmarks? I'm not sure why. There must be a more sort of scientific way to do it.
They're not that shape either.
And they're definitely not that shape. No, they're more sort of round. I mean, you could compare it to the Millennium Dome or something like that, maybe.
Compare it. I think there's a story about a world-beating potato.
Yes, that's true. That's true. Compare it to the potato.
Yeah.
But again, you know, the thing is that whenever these stories come out, they're always millions and millions of miles away. This one's 1.2 million miles. That's quite far away.
I mean, the Empire State Building itself is only about, what, 4,000 miles away?
Exactly. Do you know what?
That presents no threat.
I think I mean, look, this stuff is the typical tabloid fear-mongering stuff like that. Like, we get it. Space is full of flying rocks. Okay, so tell me when something's pretty near, and then I'm not going to worry about it. Not worried about this.
We should have I think, yeah, go on.
Well, this slightly worried me because, you know, they're looking at, you know, when one of these, because there's a slim chance that one of these is going to hit the Earth at some point in the next couple of hundred years. So they're testing to see how they can deflect it so it doesn't hit the Earth. And the tests that they're doing seem very like something I'd do in my garage. I don't even have a garage. I live in London, but they fired small spherical aluminium projectiles at meteorites suspended by pieces of nylon string. This just sounds like this is a YouTube channel.
It's
this
a bit
isn't
like
science.
when they recreate sea battles in movies in the 40s in a sort of bath. You know, you could just go, that isn't really how the sea. The waves are different. You know. Well. Hopefully, I do think there should be an international agreement about how close an asteroid has to get before it becomes a newsworthy event.
Yeah,
I think that might be something worth signing a petition for.
Yeah, I don't think this is newsworthy at all. I think when it skims Wales or something.
I do hope we have a clip of this. This is a young woman in Aldi who has decided that she's taken against the display of alcohol, wine bottles and vodka bottles. Who's got this one? Is this yours, Leo?
Yeah. So this is a fantastic story. I mean, I think we've all wanted to do this. This is smashing the wine bottles, not the racism bit. But Barbara Stangi Alvarez, she's 36. She was seen using her arm to sweep hundreds of bottles into the aisle. She just ran down the aisle, sweeping all these bottles, and then went back to the start and did the next shelf. So we've got the sherry as well, and then slipped and fell and cut her hand. Yeah. And then so 90 seconds into her wrecking spree, she had to be taken to hospital. A security guard from another shop came to take her to hospital, and then when she got to hospital after trashing 10 grand's worth of booze, she told the security, she kicked the security guard in the shin and hurled racial insults to the man, telling him, "You Indian people, I pay my taxes for you to be in this country. Go back to your own country. I hate Indians." And then later denied that. She said she'd been specifically racist against Kashmir. So I mean, she corrected her racism, but it was still racism. Also, she was saying she pays her taxes. She's been unemployed for 2 years, so hasn't been paying any taxes.
Almost certainly a net drain on the nation's finances as it is, before she's destroyed all that booze.
Yeah, and then the poor security guard who got kicked and racially abused, he's been working and paying taxes. So their racism is not just bad because it's racist, it's also incorrect.
Economically illiterate. I was fascinated watching it, though. It doesn't look like we got the clip, but if you go online, you'll find it. People are just standing around, obviously filming it on their phones, which is where we get this kind of footage. Nobody intervenes. So quite early on, there would have been an opportunity to go, whoa, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing?
She did a second shelf.
Eventually, she's like standing in a sea of broken bottles. She's dripping with the wine that she's fallen into, and it looks as if she's cut her hand. At that point, you kind of think, I'm not going in there.
They must have thought it's a good clip.
I'm sure I would have intervened, a few... It's certainly once she got onto the scotch. Maybe not for the wine. Maybe not the cheap stuff.
Everyone's a hero watching it on YouTube. Simon.
Is that a thing, though, that has changed in our culture, or is it just the fact that we watch these things now and we imagine ourselves into it as if it's
It happens all the time. You know, when something deadly serious happens, like the attack on the drummer, Lee Rigby, people were standing there just filming this man with the blood all over his hand, and you just think, I don't know what that is, and I don't think it's, I think it's a bizarre development in our psyche, surely. Why would we stand there and...
Well, the Lee Rigby thing, I remember watching that, and that was one of the most horrific things I think most of us have ever seen, and couldn't make sense of it. That was one of those things, a bit almost like 9/11, where you're just kind of going, I don't know what's happening here. How can planes be flying into buildings? Somebody who crashes a car and then takes a cleaver to a man's head, I would not get anywhere near that.
You'd run.
I would go in the other direction.
Film. You'd run. Surely. This is why
I also found, I said this at the time, and I don't know if it sounded disrespectful, but I was almost kind of like amazed by how calm the man who had done it seemed to be. I mean,
Again, it comes back to what we were saying earlier. It's about ideology, the power of ideology can turn people. They don't have to be these crazed lunatics.
Yeah.
And that's what's scary about it, I think.
But talking about mental health issues, so she'd been for a mental health assessment and been rejected, so she was upset about that. So that was her. I mean, in court she said that.
She wanted like some antidepressants or something.
Yeah, that was the catalyst for her doing this. And I think we're going to see a lot of, I mean, not necessarily broken bottles of wine, but from 2 years of lockdown, on and off lockdown, and people not being able to work, there's going to be a lot of mental health.
You don't think it was a protest against the parties at Number 10? She wasn't worried about that. Very difficult to judge what she might have been saying. I do feel that way sometimes about booze. You know, you do just sometimes want to go, get away from me, you know. But normally after you've bought it. Anyway, up next, a potentially record-breaking potato. I foreshadowed this earlier with talk of the asteroid. This is quite a heartwarming story because this is in Australia. And this is the kind of thing that I used to associate Australia with before they became an authoritarian police state. So I find this quite reassuring. Who's got it?
Well, that's Leo.
Oh, yeah. So this is a potato that could be the world's biggest potato. I mean, when we talk about it being the world's biggest potato, I was expecting it to be, you know, the size of a
space opera.
Maybe not the Eiffel Tower, but, you know, a bungalow at least.
Yeah.
It's only 7.8 kilograms, which just seems like a bit of a big potato to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, now
about a head, about the size of a human head.
Something like that. Yeah. I mean, it's made out of potato, so it'll weigh differently because we've got brains.
Disappointing.
But yeah, it was found in New Zealand, and it's going to have to undergo DNA analysis to prove that it's a potato and not James Corden. They're going to do a genotype. To confirm that it's a potato. So the couple that found it are now very upset that people think that they're making up the fact that they found a potato.
People get unwelcome news when they do DNA tests, don't they? Imagine they find it's actually the head of his father.
Yeah.
It's got a bit brown and discoloured. Oh no! Falls to his knees like Charlton Heston at the end of Planet of the Apes. You did it, you crazy bastard. Anyway, sorry, Leo. Andrew.
Well, I mean, there's very little more to say other than, you know, the couple say they feel dejected, they feel betrayed at this smear against their reputation because they're not the type of people who fabricate potatoes. You know, this is a real potato.
They've learned this from Meghan, haven't they? They've learned how to play it.
They're the victims here, very much.
I like the fact that they've called it Doug. That's a reference to all the old jokes, right? What do you call a man with a spade in his head? I assume that's
I thought it was just a get name for a potato.
I didn't even get that.
Well, it probably is, but I assume it's because it's been dug up. Yeah. You remember all those? Cliff, right? A man with a seagull on his head. Those were the days. Bring those back, BBC. What else have we got? We have Matt Hancock taking a bit of a skinny dip, is it, or something? It's like he is trying to go a bit Vladimir Putin.
A little bit. I mean, you know, I don't know whether he's sort of consented to be photographed in this way. So he's taken a dip in the serpentine.
There he is.
There he is.
Or is that the potato?
It's very cold, the serpentine. I mean, the people who go for these dips in the morning, it is a sign of machismo. You know, when you see these.
Is that the serpentine in Hyde Park?
It is absolutely. And people do this, and it is. I know someone who does this regularly. Yeah. He says absolutely freezing. And most people only last a few seconds. So it is really him sort of perhaps asserting his masculinity. But he's often caught in moments like this, you know, so leaping over fences, climbing walls, doing push-ups in the park. Snogging secretaries, which is also a sign of masculinity. So there's a theme. There's a theme in here.
I mean, he looks pretty good, you know, as MPs go. He looks fine. I don't want to body shame him. We actually go in the sea quite often in Brighton, but actually I think it might be warmer than a pond.
It will be.
In a funny way.
Right. Yeah, it will be.
It's got a bit of Gulf Stream coming through it.
I mean, again, it's not really news, is it? It's just Matt Hancock being Matt Hancock, I guess.
Is this his leadership bid?
Maybe.
Versus
it worries me that this is our PR offensive back against Russia to say this is what we've got. We're going to send Matt Hancock over.
Yes, because Putin's always with his top off on horses and bears. Is he on
fishing and shooting?
Do you think he'll be sent over to Ukraine? He's proved he can cope with the.
Maybe that's what it is.
Gentlemen, it's been an absolute pleasure as always. My thanks to Leo and Andrew. Leo, are you playing live this week?
I can't remember.
Andrew, I'm sure we'll see you soon. I've been Simon Evans. I will be back here on Thursday. In the meantime, tomorrow night you have Dominic Frisby. He'll be looking forward to seeing you then. Good night.
Good evening. A bit of rain around tonight and tomorrow as a band of wet weather moves southwards. Behind it, brighter skies will follow, but also we'll see a cold wind starting to increase. The winds have been pretty light recently thanks to high pressure, but weather fronts are slowly edging in. Been bringing some rain across western Scotland and Northern Ireland through the afternoon, and that wet weather will continue to trickle southwards. We'll see a little bit arriving across the far north of England through this evening, and some fog likely to thicken up once more across the south. That could be quite dense during this evening as well, so just be aware of that if you're heading out on the roads. Further north, we'll see another area of rain come into Scotland, Northern Ireland and later northwest England. Could see some pockets of frost across the south where the skies stay clear, but generally staying a touch above freezing, certainly for most towns and cities. Quite a grey start then tomorrow across northern England, Wales with a bit of rain, and could be some heavier bursts of rain for a time across southwest England. The rain will be fairly light and patchy across